Now, it's one of the biggest issues facing Scotland in the coming decades. How to reduce our emissions, reach net zero while also protecting and creating jobs and building a thriving green economy. It has dominated the political debate, with Labour's plans to reject any future oil and gas licences coming under fire from unions at the weekend. All this week, we'll take a closer look at energy transition. Stephen Brown looks at how well prepared the country is and the arguments for continued use of fossil fuels.
Net zero is a global issue, but there are things that Scotland and Aberdeen can do itself.
We need to see investment in skills, we need to see investment in working people and their communities.
There is actually a huge opportunity for the UK to have a world-leading renewable industry.
In the course of the next 2 decades, we are going to get ourselves in a position where we have zero emissions. And during that period, there will still be a requirement for oil and gas.
In the decades since it was discovered off our shores, oil has helped build our cities and economies. It's helped shape our society and still today holds great sway over our way of life. There's little doubt that for generations in Aberdeen, black gold as it's known has brought great success for some. The wider region has reaped the benefits of oil, but change is coming. The move to cleaner technology is already well underway. Yes, in part to reach our climate targets, but also to try and beat others in the race to build a successful green economy.
Aberdeen is in a fantastic place to take advantage of this opportunity in front of us for net zero. And if you think back to how Aberdeen addressed exploring and producing from the North Sea, some of the problem solving and the skills and the expertise required was similar to what's used to explore space. So we really need to take advantage of the engineering expertise and just the bigger supply chain and expertise that's sitting here in Aberdeen.
We're told the world is in a climate emergency. Work is needed to lower our emissions. In Scotland, we're set for net zero by 2045. It means cutting our greenhouse emissions to as close to zero as possible, with the rest either being reabsorbed or removed from our atmosphere. But to do that, we'll need new technology, new forms of energy, new skills and new thinking. Climate campaigners have stepped up their calls for the pace of change to accelerate, a full shift away from oil.
Ultimately, we know that that is an industry that is in decline, it doesn't have a future, and that there is actually a huge opportunity for the UK to have a world-leading renewable industry. So that's where the government's got to put its focus, and it's got to stop propping up an industry that ultimately is headed for decline.
But while we change, that political and wider societal debate over oil has intensified. Disputes over the phasing out of fossil fuels. The war in Ukraine fueled rocketing energy bills, meaning energy security is in the spotlight like never before. The industry says it's investing heavily in cleaner energy, but in the face of an even more uncertain future, it says oil will still be needed for decades to come.
The truth is we are going to go through a transition, and in the course of the next 2 decades we are going to get ourselves in a position where we have zero emissions. And during that period there will still be a requirement for oil and gas. And I think from the sector's point of view, it's really clear, while there is still a domestic demand, surely it makes sense that we use our own domestic resources to fulfil that demand.
For a so-called renewables revolution, it's not enough just to see the benefits, but we need to feel it too in jobs. Shifting from old oil to new net zero careers. The concern from some, especially unions, is securing work here in the supply chain, like building the turbines to harvest our wind.
At the moment, quite simply, the government aren't at the races. We need to see investment in skills, we need to see investment in working people and their communities. And we need to make sure that the good, well-paid union jobs that currently sustain the economy and energy are going to be there moving forward in a new green energy sector.
Scotland can benefit and in fact could lead in the race to renewables, and work is already well underway. But across the world, countries such as the US are determined to steal a march on us. And it will take all our skills, our knowledge and our innovation to succeed. Stephen Brown, STV News.
A man's died and a teenager has been taken to hospital.